West Virginia Board of Education v. Barnette has become one of the most famous First Amendment Supreme Court cases. To recap, back in 1943, a man challenged the West Virginia Board of Education because his children had been punished for not saluting the flag, as it went against their religion. National unity was of high importance at the time, so the board argued that while this was compelled speech, it could pass strict scrutiny. SCOTUS ruled in favor of Barnette, saying that if there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein. Forcing children to salute the flag was deemed compelled speech, and free speech won. So now what? What was the immediate impact of this case on Supreme Court decisions? Most cases used West Virginia v. Barnette to find in favor of the appellate, but a few used the case to support ruling in favor of the government. In this video, we'll look at 4 cases that used West Virginia v. Barnette to rule for the government within 10 years of the ruling. American Communications Association v. Dowds, Dennis v. United States, Everson v. Board of Education, and In re Summers. The courts sometimes used Barnette as a contrast to other cases, pointing out how they were not the same. American Communications Association v. Dowds, decided in 1950, focused on the constitutionality of a statute. Part of the National Labor Relations Act, the statute made it possible to restrict or deny benefits to organizations that had not vowed that they were not in any way affiliated with the Communist Party. The court relied on Barnette to prove the statute was constitutional and not suppressing free speech and denying these benefits. Fighting communism was a big theme in government agencies winning cases. In 1951, Dennis v. United States looked at a group of communists who were convicted for planning to advocate the overthrow of the United States. This act violated the Smith Act. The appellate sued, claiming this was a First Amendment violation, punishing communists for acting on their beliefs as a form of compelled speech. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled in favor of the statute, as there was clear and present danger in the defendant's actions. This case, in the court's opinion, had a more substantial interest for government to limit speech than it did in Barnette. Sometimes Barnette was cited in dissents, highlighting why they can't support the decision as early as 1945. This was the case with Justice Black's dissent in re Summers. To summarize, the case looked at a man who had been denied admission to the Illinois bar. This man also happened to be a conscientious objector to war. This implies that he would have needed to conform to the government's position in order to pass the bar. Earlier courts had said there was no case nor controversy in this. The Supreme Court upheld this, saying that the denial of his application did not violate the applicant's First Amendment rights. Justice Black offered his dissent, saying that the freedom to think, to believe, and to worship has too exalted a position in our country, as exhibited in Barnette. Similarly, Justice Jackson in 1947's Everson v. Board of Education used the Barnette case in his dissent. Everson refers to a New Jersey statute that said parents could be reimbursed for money collected by taxes and used for bus transportation of their children to and from parochial schools, also known as Catholic schools. The appellant didn't agree with this, saying the board doesn't have the right to reimburse parents of parochial school children. He thought his First Amendment rights were being violated. Paying taxes meant that he supported the program choice, which he did not. SCOTUS ruled in favor of the statute, saying that the First Amendment was not violated by including parochial schools under this general welfare program. Justice Jackson dissented, saying that this case was too much like Barnette in forcing religion on someone. While Barnette was forcing someone to act against their religious belief, this is acting toward religious beliefs, not held by the appellate. In conclusion, these cases all used Barnette, a case that favored the citizen over the government in cases that favored the government. Hopefully this video showed a few times the government used this in the early days and won.